Highway to Hell is a classic rock song from the band AC/DC, and though I've heard many opinions about this song, no one has ever said to me that the title was biblically inaccurate. AC/DC agrees with Christ, who taught in the Sermon on the Mount that the road to destruction was wide and many used it. The title of this song also agrees with Paul, who in the first 3 chapters of Romans is going to tell us that every person born into this world is on a highway to hell. Please subscribe and click notification. In the first 17 verses of Romans, Paul greets the Roman church and introduces the theme of faith. In verse 18, Paul begins, "For the wrath of God is revealed from heaven against all ungodliness and unrighteousness of people who suppress the truth in unrighteousness." Why is he saying this? Romans is a book driven by questions, and the first question Paul wants to answer is this: why do I need to be saved? In the verse we just read, I want you to see the words, suppress the truth in unrighteousness. Fallen people do not want to tell the truth. They don't want to know it. Fallen people are more comfortable with lies and deception. As a young man, my father confronted me about a lie. He asked me why I did it, and I said, it was just easier. We don't like the truth. We don't want to say it. We don't want to hear it. We actively suppress it. Paul continues his teaching by giving us an example of this suppression. Because that which is known about God is evident within them, for God made it evident to them. For since the creation of the world, his invisible attributes, that is, his eternal power and divine nature, have been clearly perceived, being understood by what has been made, so that they are without excuse. So through creation we can know that God is, and that God is very powerful. So what do we do with that information? For even though they knew God, they did not honor him as God or give thanks, but they became futile in their reasonings, and their senseless hearts were darkened. Claiming to be wise, they became fools. So Paul is saying we knew God through creation. It was there to see, but we did not respond by honoring him or even thanking him. And this is so true. Do we thank God when we eat our food? Do we thank him when we enjoy our homes? Do we thank him when we wake up? He's God. He made us. Everything we do and have comes from him. Are we thankful? But when we suppress these truths about God, we only damage ourselves. We damage our reasoning. We damage our sensibilities. And it just keeps getting worse. The text tells us that we claim to be wise and become fools. And this is so true. Our world is full of lies and full of foolishness. For instance, life comes when a bolt of lightning hits a mud puddle. That didn't happen. If we found a speck of lichen on Mars, scientists would freak out. It's life, it's life. But they look inside the womb to an unborn baby and say, it's just a form of life, or maybe not even alive at all. Or boys can be girls because they want to be, and vice versa. Friends, this is foolishness. And it began when we rejected God as our obvious creator. What Paul is trying to say is this: to the fallen mind, any absurdity is preferable to God's reality. Paul goes on now to continue to describe how this corruption deepens. First, our worship is corrupted, and they exchange the glory of the incorruptible God for an image in the form of corruptible mankind, of birds, four-footed animals, and crawling creatures. For they exchanged the truth of God for falsehood, and worshipped and served the creature rather than the Creator, who is forever blessed. Amen. This is idolatry. We give up the worship of the true Creator for a God we make with our hands or one we make up in our minds. And secondly, our sexuality is also corrupted. Therefore God gave them up to vile impurity in the lusts of their hearts, so that their bodies would be dishonored among them. For this reason God gave them over to degrading passions, for their women exchanged natural relations for that which is contrary to nature. And likewise the men, too, abandoned natural relations with women, and burned in their desire toward one another, males with males, committing shameful acts, and receiving in their own persons the dual penalty of their error. Homosexuality, both male and female, is the result of the corruption of walking away from our Creator. Paul ends this section by sharing with us a very powerful truth. God ultimately gives us what we want. And just as they did not see fit to acknowledge God, God gave them up to a depraved mind, to do those things that are not proper. People having been filled with all unrighteousness, wickedness, greed, and evil, full of envy, murder, strife, deceit, and malice, they are gossips, slanderers, haters of God, insolent, arrogant, boastful, inventors of evil, disobedient to parents, without understanding, untrustworthy, unfeeling, and unmerciful. He let us go the way we wanted to go. We didn't want God. God did not demand that we keep him. He simply let us go in the path we chose, a path which leads to greater and greater corruption. And then finally we reach the bottom. And although they knew the ordinance of God, that those who practice such things are worthy of death, in other words, we know we're disobeying God, they not only do the same, but also approve of those who practice them. The final step of depravity is not just to do these things, it is to approve of these things. Not only do you do them in defiance to God, you say it's good. You applaud them, you encourage them, you publicly take joy in them. And welcome to 2024, when nearly everything that God despises is being shoved down our throats as good. Dear friends, choose now what you're going to do. Are you going to follow God, or are you going to follow the world? If you follow the world, join in their approval of evil, you will receive the worldly reward. But if you choose to follow Christ, you will receive an eternal and heavenly reward. As for me and my house, we will worship the Lord. In conclusion, we are on a highway to hell because we knew God through creation. We knew he existed, we knew he was powerful, and we just let that knowledge go. We didn't want God. We wanted to be our own gods. And for that, we are without excuse before our Creator.